West Africa. A region of vibrant cultures, immense resources, and a history scarred by instability, colonial legacies, and the shadow of foreign powers. In the heart of this region lies Burkina Faso. In 2022, this nation, pushed to the brink by conflict and disillusionment, saw power seized by a young, unassuming army captain. At just 34, Ibrahim Traoré became Africa's youngest head of state. But he wasn't just another military ruler. He was a symbol, a spark, and a man who dared to challenge the established order, confront former colonial masters, and ask a burning question: can Africa truly be free? To understand this man, we must return to his roots. His story begins not in the halls of power, but in Kara, a quiet locality in Bondakwi, Mohand province. Born March 14, 1988, Ibrahim Traoré grew up far from the capital's intrigue. He was raised in the multi-ethnic city of Bobo-Dioulasso, by a modest, working-class family, where his world was shaped by hard work, discipline, and diversity. Due to his quiet, observant, and fiercely intelligent, teachers described him as reserved but brilliant. He excelled in primary school in Bondakwi, then high school in Bobo-Dioulasso, showing a gift for math and physics. In 2006, he enrolled at the University of Ouagadougou to study geology. But here, amidst the ferment of student life, something else ignited. Exposure to international students, Pan-African forums, and the burgeoning internet sparked an interest in the wider world, in geopolitics, language, and the forces shaping Africa's destiny. How did a boy from Francophone Africa become fluent in English? Not through classrooms, but sheer self-discipline. He devoured books, scoured online resources, watched international news. He understood, English was the language of global discourse, science, and diplomacy. To change the world, you had to understand its language. Relentless practice, immersion in online forums, reading English newspapers, he built his fluency piece by piece. University wasn't just academics. Traoré became active in student organizations like the Association of Muslim Students and, significantly, the Marxist-influenced ANEB, the National Association of Students of Burkina. As an ANEB delegate, he defended fellow students, honing leadership skills. He was drawn to leftist, Pan-African ideas criticizing imperialism and foreign exploitation. The ghost of Thomas Sankara, the revolutionary captain who renamed the nation, loomed large. Sankara's speeches were studied like scripture. Traoré listened more than he spoke, absorbing the ideals of self-reliance and anti-imperialism. A seed was planted. Then came a turning point. Why the military? Around 2009 or 2010, with his geology studies likely complete, Traoré made a pivotal choice. He enlisted in the army of Burkina Faso. His country was increasingly threatened by terrorist insurgencies linked to ISIS and Al-Qaeda, especially in the north. For Traoré, this wasn't about power, it was about purpose. About protecting people abandoned by the state. He excelled, graduating from the Georges Namono Military Academy as a second lieutenant in 2012. Specialized training followed, anti-aircraft skills in Morocco and artillery expertise. His path was focused. He was stationed in Kaya, in an infantry unit, right at the heart of the growing conflict. His career progressed steadily. Promotion to lieutenant in 2014. Deployment to Mali with the UN peacekeeping mission, MINUSMA. In 2018, serving in the volatile Tombouctou region, he was cited for bravery during major rebel attacks. He was proving himself under fire. Returning to Burkina Faso, he was thrown into the grinding fight against jihadists on home soil. Operations like the Otapuanu Offensive in Djibo in 2019, countless counterinsurgency missions across the north. He saw the war's brutal reality firsthand. In 2020, his dedication earned him the rank of captain. He earned a reputation among his comrades, a fearless leader who fought with his men, not behind them. But the situation only worsened. By 2022, Burkina Faso was teetering on the edge. The state had lost control of vast swathes of territory. Villages emptied, farmers fled, schools closed. Fear and frustration gripped the nation. Soldiers on the front lines felt abandoned, lacking ammunition, resources, and clear leadership. Trust in the state had evaporated. Earlier that year, in January, Lieutenant Colonel Paul-Henri Damiba had seized power in a coup, promising to crush the insurgency. Captain Traoré, along with others, initially supported Damiba, hoping for change. He was even appointed head of an artillery regiment in Kaya by the new leader in March. But months passed, and the violence only worsened. Damiba's promises rang hollow. Whispers grew in the barracks, leadership was failing, perhaps focused more on personal ambition than the nation's survival. A devastating ambush on a supply convoy in September 2022, killing many soldiers, became a symbol of the ongoing failure. Disillusionment festered. Captain Traoré, witnessing the decay from the front lines, emerged as a voice for the disgruntled. He had seen enough. Then came the decisive moment. On September 30, 2022, Ouagadougou trembled again. In a swift, reportedly bloodless takeover, Captain Ibrahim Traoré and a faction of soldiers ousted Damiba. This wasn't ego, they claimed, but urgency. Appearing on national television, calm but resolute, Traoré announced Damiba's removal, the constitution's suspension. A new chapter, he declared, guided not by power, but by the interests of the nation. The world took notice. Not just another coup, but led by Africa's youngest head of state. For many Burkinabe, however, age was irrelevant. What mattered was the promise of integrity, of action, of a leader who understood their suffering. But governing Burkina Faso meant more than battling insurgents. Traoré inherited a nation scarred not just by terror, but by the long shadow of its former colonial ruler, France. To understand his next moves, you have to understand this complex relationship. Decades of French influence manifested in many ways: military presence under the banner of counterterrorism, economic control via the CFA franc, printed in France, French companies dominating key sectors, especially gold mining, extracting wealth while poverty persisted, diplomatic leverage shaping internal policies. Traoré saw this as modern colonialism, and he began, systematically, to cut the strings. French troops, ordered out. French ambassador, expelled. Military agreements, terminated. French state-funded media outlets like RFI and France 24, suspended, accused of biased reporting and fueling division. French-supported schools and NGOs, some faced closure, viewed as instruments of soft power. He declared, a nation cannot be free when it is militarily dependent on the very powers who once colonized it. He nationalized key mining assets, challenging the economic status quo head-on. They took our gold, our language, our decisions. We must take them back. These weren't just policies, they were declaration of independence, echoing the spirit of Sankara. They electrified supporters across Africa tired of neo-colonial deference, but shocked Western capitals. But challenging an empire invites danger. In 2023, rumors and reports surfaced of multiple assassination attempts against Traoré. Snipers targeting his convoy, poisoning plots within the ranks, whispers of foreign-backed operations. His administration remained tight-lipped on details, but the threats were real. His public response was typically calm, almost detached. He said, yes, some want me dead. But I'm already a soldier. I didn't come here to live forever. I came to serve. This wasn't bravado, it reflected a man who understood the stakes. Yet leadership, especially in times of crisis, demands more than courage. It requires choices, often hard and polarizing. To consolidate control and fight the insurgency, Traoré made difficult, often controversial decisions like suspending the constitution, promising a transition but delaying timelines. Tightening state media control to combat perceived disinformation, though critics cried censorship. Empowering and arming local civilian militias, the Volunteers for the Defense of the Homeland, VDP, a necessary measure for rural defense, but one carrying risks of future conflict. Meanwhile, on the regional stage, he redrew alliances. He broke from established blocs like ECOWAS, forming the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, with fellow military-led governments in Mali and Niger. Their aims are to build mutual defense, economic cooperation, potentially even a shared currency outside French influence, a direct challenge to the old regional order and Western sway. Africa must defend itself, feed itself, and think for itself, became his mantra. Even in the deeply personal spheres of faith and education, Traoré took unexpected stands. Perhaps one of his most surprising moves came in the realm of religion and education. A practicing Muslim himself, Traoré took a firm stance against the expansion of certain foreign-funded Muslim schools, particularly those backed by Gulf states. His reasoning, national unity and anti-sectarianism. He argued these schools could import extremist ideologies and divide the nation. Instead, he championed a new intellectual direction. He advocated for secular, state-run education promoting citizenship, sovereignty, and Pan-African values, free from foreign ideological influence, religious or otherwise. This angered some clerics but gained quiet approval from others, showcasing his commitment to Burkinabe identity above all else. Beyond confrontation, Traoré's government began laying foundations for a different future, rooted in self-reliance. An economic vision focused on local production, food, medicine, and building materials, encouraging community-run mining cooperatives to ensure local benefit from natural resources, promoting Pan-African trade, seeking partners within the continent. The Made in Burkina initiative aimed to empower local entrepreneurs. As he told a crowd, "We can't borrow freedom, we build it, brick by brick." This vision extended to the classroom. Education reform became a priority, moving away from colonial-era curricula towards teaching African history, ethics, and critical thinking. Supporting technical schools to equip youth for local industries, implementing civic engagement programs in rural schools, fostering self-reliance from a young age. Inspired youth formed student brigades, volunteering in reconstruction and community security, and with identity came pride. A cultural renaissance began. Local languages gained prominence in broadcasts. Traditional arts were celebrated. Heroes of resistance, especially Thomas Sankara, were restored to national memory and taught in schools. Traoré understood that identity is more than a flag, it's memory, pride, and shared struggle. While sometimes criticized as overly military-focused, his administration made efforts to include women, appointing female commanders in local defense groups, funding women-led farms and cooperatives, pushing laws to protect girls. No revolution can win with half the population silent, he acknowledged. But every revolution brings its own tensions. The path remains fraught with peril. Internally, dissent exists among urban elites and opposition figures wary of military rule and international isolation. Externally, Western powers exert pressure through sanctions, diplomatic cold shoulders, and negative media portrayals, often labeling him a strongman. His administration fights back, investing in local and Pan-African media to tell their own story. If you don't tell your story, he warned, someone else will, and they'll make you the villain. Amid all this, one question echoes louder than the rest. The biggest question looms, the return to democracy. Traoré has pledged it, but no clear timeline exists. Critics fear power will corrupt. Supporters argue stability and sovereignty must come first, that rushing elections under duress would be suicidal. Can a nation defend itself, rebuild its foundations, and prepare for civilian rule simultaneously? Who is Ibrahim Traoré? A soldier, a rebel, a pragmatist, or an autocrat in waiting? Perhaps all and none of these. He remains enigmatic, famously private. Little is confirmed about his personal life beyond his Muslim faith and reputation for discipline and frugality. He rejects the lavish trappings of power, preferring his uniform, a symbol of his ongoing fight. He has survived assassination attempts, stared down a former colonial power, and ignited a conversation about sovereignty, dignity, and identity that resonates far beyond Burkina Faso's borders. He has awakened a generation across Africa. And yet, the verdict is still unwritten. Whether Captain Ibrahim Traoré ultimately succeeds or fails, whether he becomes a footnote or a legend, one thing is undeniable: he has refused to be a puppet. He embodies Africa's unfinished struggle for true freedom. Ibrahim Traoré has set Burkina Faso on a new course, one that challenges the very foundations of power in Africa. But the road ahead is fraught with danger. Can he navigate the complex web of internal threats and external pressures? Will he survive the forces aligned against him, both seen and unseen? And ultimately, will his revolution deliver on its promise of true liberation and self-determination? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and like this video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analyses of Africa's evolving future.